Okay, so there's a couple minutes after, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you to everyone that showed up and everyone that's watching online. This town hall, as you know, is to talk about the changes, coming in the fire fee and the fire establishment, the fire protection district. And, first I'd like to start by introducing some people that are, in the room tonight. My name is Daniel Sexton. I am the Deputy Chief and Public Information Officer for Smith Station Fire. Dwight Christopher is running the live stream computer for us. He is Deputy Chief over Operations. Joe Walden is the Chief. And Clint Knox over there behind Dwight is Assistant Chief. And we didn't have any board members with us tonight. Elected officials, we have Lieutenant Commissioner District 1. Doug Cannon and the station mayor, Bubba Copeland, with us here tonight. So just a quick introduction for everyone. So before we start, just let everyone know that this presentation is being live streamed on Facebook and YouTube and the internet. So including the question and answer session at the end, will be on the internet, and the entire presentation will be available both in video format and PDF format shortly after the meeting is over. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so if everyone will just hold any questions till the end so that we can address them kind of in a orderly fashion, we would appreciate that. And we just wanted to say, please be mindful and respectful of your neighbors. It's possible that people have different opinions about different things, and that we all are neighbors and have to live here together. So, some of the things that we're going to cover tonight is an overview of the department, talk about the current fire fee, the problems with the current fire fee, a little bit of information about the ambulance, a little bit of information comparing us to other fire departments and fire districts in our area. Talk about why Station Fire needs additional funds and the solution that after about 3 years of trying different things, we were able to come up with. And then finally, we'll have that Q&A session. We'll try to limit that to around 30 minutes just to be respectful of everyone's time. Not a lot of people here, so we'll probably get done much faster than that, but that was kind of our goal. So the department overview, Smith Station Fire Protection District was established February 17th of 2022. How was the district established? In accordance with Alabama law, a resolution was passed by the fire department board, and we submitted an application to both the city of Smith Station and the Lee County Commission asking them to support the establishment of the district. Both entities did pass a resolution supporting the establishment of the district, and we then filed those resolutions along with the application with the Secretary of State, who gave us the final approval to establish the fire protection district. The entity that previously existed, Smith Station Fire and Rescue, which was the fire department, was merged into the new fire protection district on April the 1st. So our legal name is now Smith Station Fire Protection District. You'll notice that the trucks, the buildings, everything still says Smith Station Fire and Rescue. That you can think of that as our trade name or our doing business as, just because that's the name we've had for a number of years, and that entity is now merged into the protection district. And one of the questions we had previously on Facebook was about the law establishing fire districts. It is Code of Alabama, Title 11, Chapter 89. We're going to talk about that a little more towards the end of the presentation, but I did want to just mention that that's the area for anybody who wants to look it up. Continuing about the fire department area, we cover about 72 square miles in Lee County. We provide fire EMS coverage to about 35,000 people in that 72 square miles. So we are the most populous fire department outside of Opelika and Auburn. We have 6 stations, one 24/7 ambulance that was unfortunately we had to suspend in early part of this year due to funding. We're going to discuss that a little more later too. It is our sincere hope and goal, and we feel like we're going to be able to meet that to open that operation back in the first quarter of next year, 2023. And part of that is we could not do that without changing from a fire department to a fire protection district. And we'll discuss that a little more as we get there. We have a 2,500 gallon tanker engine that we purchased in 2015 that's out here. We have a ladder truck that we purchased in 2013. 5 1,000 gallon engines that are out at the outstations, one at each station, except for station 3 is currently without an operational engine because it's a 1990 model and it is beyond repair. We don't make the parts for it anymore. So that's, again, another reason, we'll discuss a little more as we go, but another reason why we got to get more funding. We got to get a fire truck up there because technically it doesn't count as a fire station if there's not a fire truck in it, a working fire truck. We have 4 quick response EMS SUVs, like everyone in the country that I'm aware of. We run more EMS calls than fire calls. As fire safety has improved over the years, smoke alarms, fire retardant materials, things like that. There's a lot less house fires, but EMS calls, medical calls from medical assistance have gone through the roof. We have 2 brush trucks, 1 brush rescue truck, 2 sets of extrication tools, which are commonly known as the jaws of life, and 2 battery-powered combi tool extrication tools, which again are jaws, but these are battery-powered models that are much easier and quicker for a simple door pop or something like that. Someone's not really entrapped, that they can't get out without some assistance. Those tools are very nice to be able to quickly grab them, get the person out of the car. So our current funding, the fire fee, was originally $25. It was approved by a vote in 1989 and it expired in 2013. In 2012, we had a special election countywide for everyone except for Beulah because they were already a fire district. Had a special election and approved a $50 fire fee. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but that fire fee is still $50 since 2012, and it is scheduled to expire in 2036. Since 2012, this is what we spent that money on. We purchased 2 new fire engines in 2013. For the cost of about $796,000. The ladder truck in 2013, which was $640,000. We'll talk about that a little later. You can't even buy any of this for a fraction of that at this point. The new tanker truck was in 2015 was $436,000. The brush rescue truck was $130,000. The Scott air packs that we wear when we go into fires, we could not fight fire without. Those were replaced in 2012 for a cost of $120,000, and unfortunately, we're going to talk about that too. They're out of date. This won't need to be replaced. And as you probably already guessed, you can't buy them for $120,000 anymore. Breathing air system, which is the machine that we use to fill those bottles up with breathing air, so that we have air in those air packs, was $50,000. A new set of one of the sets of jaws we had, those were $105,000. We purchased 2 used brush trucks for $89,000. The medical SUVs, we built Station 6, purchased our ambulance, purchased 2 CPR machines, turnout gear, AEDs, rebuilt Stations 3 and 4. Station 3 was literally falling apart. It was an old wood station. You can go up there and rock it back and forth. So now it's a metal building, still not very fancy, but it's not falling apart anymore, meaning should last. We had some startup costs associated with the ambulance and computerizations. Prior to 2012, everything here was still paper. There was no computerized anything. I don't even know if we owned a computer. If we did, it probably wasn't very good. And so we have invested quite a bit of money in technology, computers, software, things like that. To just, now if you need a fire report, we can, so if your insurance company is requesting a fire report, we can print you an official fire report for your insurance company. Other law enforcement agencies need them sometimes, things like that. So it's been very important that we get that. On a yearly basis, this is looking at what we bring in with the current fire fee, is about $565,000 a year. The vast majority of that, 87%, goes out the door as soon as we get it. We don't have a lot of control. So we're left with about 13% at the end of the day for discretionary spending. What I mean by discretionary is if something bears up, something breaks, we need to hold a training class, anything like that. So our biggest expense is the fire truck and ambulance payments. Obviously, those trucks are very expensive. Only bringing in $500,000 a year, we weren't able to pay cash. They're financed for about 10 years each. Insurance costs us about $83,000 a year. We typically spend about $24,000 on vehicle repairs, about $37,000 on gas and oil, $28,000 on medical supplies, $3,200 a year on software. And part of that is like our emergency reporting system. It's a yearly fee, year after year. It's not like we're buying $3,200 worth of new software each year. Station utilities typically run us about $26,000 a year. Required annual equipment testing about right at $15,000 a year. And then of course we have to pay accountants and lawyers and things like that to file our books and what have you for about $6,000 a year. So all told, that comes up to about $491,000 a year out of that $565,000. So as you can see, the vast majority of the money is in fixed expenses. There's not a lot of room there to do anything. So we're going to talk about some of the problems with the fire fee. The primary issue with the fire fee is neither the 1989 or the 2012 ballots contained a provision for a steady increase. They were just a one-time fix. This is what it is until it expires. So there was no indexing to the cost of living or indexing to CPI or anything like that. It was just one time, this is the amount. Well, obviously the price of everything increases every year. Nothing stays the same. To continue with the fire fee and have another, to get a fire fee raise, so to speak, we would probably need to do another special election because when they tried putting it on several times to general elections, it was voted down every time. I think the matter was just too many people that didn't really know what they were voting. They were really just coming to vote for president or something like that, and they either didn't vote at all or they just voted no because all they saw was the fee and they weren't very, up on exactly what they were voting on. Now in 2006, they tried a graduated fee. It was going to go to $50, and then steadily each year increased by a few dollars until a max of $75. That was defeated countywide. Again, I think that part of that was probably people not understanding what they were voting on, and the DOJ had required some pretty confusing wording, and the way it was worded kind of made it sound like it was going to 75 immediately, and then was going to increase another 75. So that could have played a large part in it. But it was out of anyone's control of what the DOJ wanted. So the current fire fee, like I said, expires in 2036. It's not permanent funding. It's only temporary funding. In 2036, it goes away unless there was another vote. So to keep it even at the current level would require another vote. And we would need to start campaigning and having votes years in advance based on how long it took to get the 2012 vote passed. It took a couple of votes and it took a lot of campaigning and things like that. And as we'll talk about a little later, our volunteers are very stretched thin It's hard to get all of the 911 calls answered, much less find extra time for folks to go out and knock on doors and say, hey, your fire department's about to go out of business, can you please vote for an increase? So, I mean, that's definitely an obstacle in the way that the current fee is structured. So we talked a little bit about the income and the expenses, and so the current income level is just not sufficient for restarting the ambulance service. It's not sufficient for hiring any paid firefighters or expanding any services. We're at the point now where, with the funds that we have, we can only maintain what we have. We cannot do anything additional. And, you know, it's unlikely that we would be able to continue at the same level we are today to 2036. Costs continue to rise, funding continues to stay the same. All we can do is reduce service, not increase service. We don't get free anything. We don't get free power, free vehicles, free anything. So we can either put gas in the truck, or we can, you know, at some point you have to start making those choices. Another problem with the current fire fee is it has no provision for residential versus commercial. So what happens is large businesses with millions of dollars in income are paying $50 a year, the same as every person in their single family home. It has no provisions for multiple dwelling units. So there is a apartment complex in our jurisdiction that has 24 units in a single building, and they pay $50 a year for that entire building, where a person in a single wide trailer is paying $50 a year. And so it's very unfair in that situation. And it really does hurt our income, because you think about a large apartment complex like that, there's lots of calls in there, but they nowhere near come to paying their fair share. So the same example apartment complex we're talking about, at the time this presentation was put together, they had about 270 living units inside 21 buildings. And they were paying for those 21 buildings $1,050 a year. If they were paying per living unit, like a single family owner does, they're would be paying about $13,500 a year. So about $12,000 underpayment there versus what individual homeowners were paying. Also, the same apartment complex has 7 three-story buildings. And prior to them building those 3-story buildings, we didn't have any 3-story buildings in our jurisdiction. Once they built those, we were required by ISO to purchase the ladder truck at a cost of $640,000. ISO says if you have 5 or 7 or more 3-story buildings, that you have to have a ladder truck. Without that, they would took our ISO rating away, which would cause everyone's insurance to go up. So we had no choice but to buy the ladder truck for $640,000. The certification cost for that's around $3,200 a year that we have to pay. And so based on the current fees of $1,050 a year, it will only take us about 610 years to pay for that ladder truck. Obviously, the ladder truck will probably have to be replaced before it's paid back. Since that time, we've had another apartment complex also build some 3-story buildings in our jurisdiction, so we actually have more than the 7 now. But at the time that we had to buy the ladder truck, that was kind of the situation we were in. So the apartment complex was lots of calls, lots of costs associated with that ladder truck, very little income under the fire fee. And so that is, you know, just an example. It's nothing that the apartment complex did okay, because they're just following the rules. This is an example of what was the problem with the fire fee as it's set up. So this chart shows the blue is our call volume. Starting in 2011, right before the fire fee was passed, Through 2021, you can see there's been an exponential increase in calls. And the rent down here at the bottom starts at $25 and goes to $50. So as these calls have gone up, and more calls means more gas, more vehicles, more medical supplies, more everything, but not more money. Money has stayed the same. This slide, we're talking about some of the cost increases for the protective gear that the firefighters wear to go into the building, fires, or even around them. So in 2012, you could outfit an entire firefighter for around $7,300. Today, that's around $16,000, or an increase of 224%. So while the safety equipment required for firefighters and firefighters has increased around 224%, the funding increased 0%. So you start to get the idea of what I'm saying. We're barely able to maintain today, and at some point we will have to reduce if we don't do something. Fire trucks, same thing. I kind of mentioned earlier that ladder truck. I said we couldn't get one for $650,000 now. Nope, they're about $1.2 million now. Same thing. The fire engines have gone up from $365 each to about $699. And the tanker pumper that we bought in 2015 for $450,000 is about $840,000 now. So almost a 200% increase in each truck, and again, no funding increase. So the truck that is currently broken, we can't buy another truck at 2012 prices to replace it. So in fact, we just ordered that truck. And it's $699,000 and change to replace that truck. So again, you can understand and see how prices are going up, but the funding is staying the same. This slide is very interesting in it compares the fire fee with the trash fees. So we have the trash fees for Opelika at about $312 a year. The Auburn trash fees are about $282 a year. Smith Station is about $245. Lee County is about $222. And Phoenix City is about $204. What we did was we took their solid waste budget, divided it by the number of homes that they had in the census, and that gave us a yearly price. The fire fee is $50. So you can see there's a huge disparity between the trash fee and the fire fee. The trash fee in each of these cities and counties versus the fire fee. So I always like to tell people that, the fire department should be alert at least as much as the trash fee. The fire department's going to save your life, your family's life, your house, things like that. So now we're going to go to the ambulance information, and we're going to tell you a little bit about why we had to pause the ambulance operations and why we need to get the ambulance started back. So some basic information here. We had the ambulance from 2018 till 2022. March of 2022, we had to suspend that service. You can see in each year, this is how many, the blue is how many calls we responded to, and the green is how many people we actually transported to the hospital. So we were transporting right around an average of 800 people per year to the hospital. And that's right out of Smith Station. So out of our fire district, we were taking about 800 people a year to the hospital. And a question that we always get is, well, you are charging the people that we took to the hospital, so why wasn't that enough money? Unfortunately, this slide shows what we billed in blue versus what we collected in green. It is a well-known industry fact that the vast majority of 911 calls you do not get paid for. You cannot run a profitable operation on just 911 calls. That's why your private ambulance services all have these contracts with nursing homes and hospitals to do these non-emergency transports. That's where they run their profitable operation out of. if they were just doing 911 calls, no one can stay in business. And the reason why is you have to transport, and I'm not arguing this isn't right, I'm only explaining, you have to transport every single person that wants to be transported, whether they have any money, whether they have any insurance, or anything like that. You cannot say, well, now you're having a heart attack, but I need you to slide your credit card before we take you to the hospital. Obviously, we don't want to even do that, but so lots of people that use the ambulance, unfortunately, do not have insurance, do not have the means to pay cash for the services. Also, Medicare and Medicaid pay a fraction of what you bill. For instance, if memory serves, Medicaid of Alabama pays about $175 roughly for a transport. It doesn't even cover the cost of the equipment and supplies that you use, much less the labor and things like that. And you just have to accept what they pay you because of the government. There's no negotiating with them. So that is part of it. This isn't all just unpaid bills. Part of it is, we bill Medicaid $800 for equipment, supplies, and people, and they pay us $175. So that's just kind of how that worked. Now, one of the problems that we had was, one of the larger problems was attracting and retaining personnel. And the reason why is we were paying $11 an hour for EMTs, and we were paying $17 an hour for paramedics. We did not have enough funding to offer insurance, retirement, or anything like that. They were literally just getting paid $11 an hour and $17 an hour. Well, when we took a quick look on the internet, we found that you could be a dog groomer for $14 to $22 an hour. You could be a junior tire man for $15 to $19 an hour, or a lawn doctor for $15 an hour, be an aerobics instructor, aquatic aerobics instructor for $20 an hour. So why would anybody want to come and work on the ambulance for $11 an hour when you could be an aquatic aerobics instructor for $20 an hour? So people that we're not making as much as the local pet group. And so that made it extremely hard to not only recruit, but retain employees. In the meantime, other services, private services that have some of those contracts that we were talking about for nursing homes and things like that, they were offering $10,000 sign-on bonuses and $18 to $24 an hour for dollars. Obviously, the pay was much higher, and they were getting large sign-on bonuses, and they also had health insurance, retirement, dental insurance, short-term disability, and life insurance. We had none of that. So if you're a paramedic and you could go work for us for $17 an hour with no benefits, or you could go be a dog groomer for $20 an hour, or you could go work here for $24 an hour and have all these benefits, obviously this is where you're going to choose to go. And we do not have the funding under the current fire fee to compete with that. As you saw, we barely pay the bills. So just to take a look at 2021, ambulance income, the ambulance brought in $260,000. But it cost us in payroll and the billing company that handled the billing, they charge 6%. And payroll, it cost us $333,000. So we had a deficit of $73,000. So that $73,000 had to come out of that $100,000 a little less than $100,000 that I showed you earlier, where of discretionary funds that we had. And then that deficit also did not include the payment for the ambulance, but we counted that in our budget back there, but it didn't include fuel and things like that for the ambulance. So the actual loss on the ambulance averaged about $150,000 a year between 2018 and 2012. It was an average of about $150,000 each year for the ambulance loss. So we would just, it's not about making money, it's about saving people's lives. But again, we have to have the money to be able to do it, because no one's giving us free gas for the ambulance or working on the ambulance for free or anything like that, free supplies, free medicine. I mean, there's a long list of drugs that you're required to carry on the ambulance, Every one of them expire. Some of them are $400 and $500 for a little tube, and if you don't use them, they expire. You basically have to throw them away and buy another. And so that's kind of where we were with the game. So now we're going to look at how we compare with some other fire departments in our area, both budget-wise and dollar-wise. So in Lee County, out of the six volunteer fire departments, Smith Station accounts for 48% of the costs. The other 5 departments share the other 52% of the costs. So as you can see on this graph, by far we are the busiest fire department in rural Lee County outside of Auburn and Opelika. And we have by far the highest population, the highest number of calls, and the highest expenses. So that puts us in a situation where we also have the most expenses. So while other than Beulah at the present time, everybody else is getting $50 per household, it may work for them or work better for them or not, or be not as bad because they don't have as many calls, they don't have as many population, they don't have as much expense. So some fire districts in our area, Beulah Utilities Districts in Lee County, East Alabama Sewer, Water, and Fire Protection District in Chambers County, Hughley Water, Sewer, and Fire Protection Authority in Chambers County, and Palmerdale Fire District in Jefferson. The goal here is just to give you an idea of what other people are charging for fire districts versus what we are being paid. So, Beulah Fire here in Lee County, their residential rate is about $204 a year. Nonprofits are paying between $276 and $864, and commercials between $324 and $1,100 would be for all of those categories. So as you can see, they're already addressing. You'll notice that all of these departments they're already addressing some of the problems that we described earlier with the fire field, like with apartment complexes and duplexes. East Alabama Fire, here's their rates, same thing. The residential rate's about $200 a year versus our $50 a year. This is in Chambers County, covers the valley and some rural areas in Chambers County. Hughley, again, covers up around Casita and some rural areas in Chambers County. They're about $218. They have some commercial rates going as high as $2,700. There's some auto manufacturing stuff in their district that they're responsible for related to Kia. They're not far from there. But again, addressing the difference between residential and commercial. This is Jefferson County. I put this in just to kind of show how they're doing it. They're doing it based on the value of your home. So a residential could run from anywhere from $183 a year to $900 a year based on the value of the home. That is certainly making it fair. So someone living in an older mobile home isn't paying as much as the guy that just built a huge $4 million mansion currently in Lee County outside of Beulah. That's exactly how it would work. Again, they have commercial rates running based on value from about $200 a year to $1,000 a year. This is looking at some cities as well. If you look, our annual fire budget, as we discussed, is about $565,000 a year, or $1,604 per person. So we took our budget and we divided it by the number of people and come up with that $1,604 per person. So that's what people in our fire district are currently spending on fire protection. You look at even some small places and possibly economically disadvantaged places like Tuskegee, they're spending $160 a person on fire protection. Selma, $170, Eufaula, $293, Alexander City, $304, Troy, $333. Closer to home, Kansas City, $155, $234 in Opelika, $119 in Auburn, and $213 in Opelika. house or by person, we are nowhere near what anyone else in the state is. So $16 is ours. The closest person to us would be $108 per person, and per house, ours is about $40. And that's because some people, like those apartment complexes, are paying for every living unit. They're only paying for the building. So that pulls the overall average down. We've had that question. Someone said, hey, you said $40 a house is $50. Well, it's not, because you have people that, even a duplex, there's 2 houses there, they're only paying $50. So each one of those houses, they're really only paying $25. So that's why it's not 50. The average per house is 40. The next closest I see to us, just quickly looking, would be Monroeville for 306. So huge difference between 40 and 306. Again, all this will be on our website later if you want to download it, view it, ask questions about it. So how do we compare population and calls? Looking at East Alabama Fire District, our population is much higher than theirs, represented in green. Our calls are right about the same as theirs. So obviously they have a lot of calls for the number of population they have, but our calls are very close. Our budgets are very much not close. They're budgeted in blue, ours in the green. And so this is just a quick summary of the local fire protection districts. Our residential rate is about $4.16 a month. The next closest person would be Beulah at $17. So again, a huge disparity in that. One of the questions that we also got that we wanted to address with the new fire fee is, what if someone refuses to pay? Well, we're hoping that that's not going to be the case, although realistically we understand that there are going to be some people that just want to be contrary to everything. So it is important that everyone pay their fair share, and hopefully, what will be very rare circumstances, we do have under the law the actions that could include using a commercial credit agents, collection agency, reporting negative data to credit bureaus, property liens, tax refund liens, and then ultimately civil litigation. We're hoping that this does not ever happen, and we feel like even the most stubborn person would understand that these are not good actions, and we won't have to really do this. But we wanted to answer the question because it was asked to us more than once. And then the other biggest question we get is about hardship cases. Yes, we understand that there are people that are in extremely bad circumstances, whether it's, older people that are retired and only get Social Security, or, single moms, whatever the case may be. We understand that, and we have a process. There's a form available on our website that can be filled out. It uses some annual income data provided by the Department of Housing and Urban Development that establishes the poverty line. The form can be filled out and turned in, and then the board will look at each case and the merits of that case individually. So there is a method for people that need assistance to get that assistance. At the same time, I compare this to the waterworks or the power company. No one's getting free water, no one's getting free power. Everyone has to pay the waterworks, everyone has to pay the power. Even if you have a well, you might not pay the waterworks, but you're paying the power company for pumping the water out of it. So, hardship cases should be, as everyone would expect, rare and special rare circumstances for a hardship case. Not just everyone says, oh, I don't want to pay it, so I'm going to say, I got a hardship. So, the next section talks about why the Smith Station Fire and Rescue need more funds. Well, hopefully, by this point in the presentation, you already know why we need more funds. I think we talked about it quite a bit, but we'll just run through a little bit of it quickly. We want to reinstate the ambulance. The need to reinstate that ambulance is now. With our call volume and population, we need an ambulance in primary basis in the station. We have a great working relationship with East Alabama Medical Center and their ambulances. They have an ambulance that is stationed here most of the time, but their ambulance, or all of their ambulances, are responsible for the entire county, including, Lochapoka, Auburn, Opelika, Beauregard, Beulah, everywhere. So when there are calls in other parts of the county, there are times that all the ambulances may be in Auburn and Opelika. There are also times that all the ambulances are in Smith Station. It happens. But we need an ambulance whose primary responsibility and primary focus is on Smith Station. We have too many people and too many emergency calls to not have that primary responsibility or that primary ambulance. Our ambulance improves the outcome. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Of the patients, we ran numerous mutual aid calls in both Lee and Russell counties. Our ambulance, there were times, they were rare, but there were times that we answered calls in all the language because there just wasn't enough ambulances in the county to meet the 911 call at the time. So we're not saying our ambulance is only going to be at Smith Station, never leaves Smith Station. No, we're not going to let someone die in Opelika when we have an ambulance sitting here and we can go help. But our goal is we need someone, that would be a mutual aid situation, not our primary responsibility. Our primary responsibility is Smith Station. Again, also our ambulance was a social pride for the community. It was, the community able to say, look, we have an ambulance here. Our community has grown. We are taking care of our citizens. And if our citizens are in a car wreck, get hurt in a fire, have a medical emergency, there's an ambulance whose primary responsibility is our citizens. And we believe that at the end, that's a source of pride for our community. One other point, the picture that you see in the top right is Columbus Piedmont Midtown yesterday. I counted at least 8 ambulances in that picture, just all sitting there waiting to drop off patients. And that's just Piedmont Midtown. It is often like that at Piedmont. It is often like that at St. Francis. It is occasionally like that at East Alabama Medical Center. Those ambulances could sit there anywhere from 2 to 6 to 8 hours waiting to be able to drop off their patients. So what happens, and the reason why I bring this up is if our ambulance from Smith Station is in that line, there is not an ambulance in Smith Station for 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. Now, the East Alabama Medical Center will send an ambulance from Opelika or Auburn if we get a call during that time. If they have available ambulances, they will station one in Salem that would be close to us, but there will not be an ambulance in the station. And that's again why we feel like we need one primary responsibility is the station. That is not to say that we haven't been sitting in that line, because we have. But if we were sitting in that line, the chances are that the ambulance from the East Alabama Medical Center was not. It was extremely rare for both of us to be sitting in that line. So by having to, again, it really helps with making sure there's an ambulance here all the time. Also put a quote here from a news article that Elizabeth White did on February the 7th, when we first announced the Dragon Skin operations. Mr. Cox, the citizen, lives over in the Leo 197 area, and he says, in April of 2020, I had a heart attack and fell down dead. I was dead. They came in and revived me. They carried me outside, put me on the defibrillator, and brought me back. My doctor told me that if it had not been such a quick response, I had a widowmaker, I would not have made it. So I put that in to stress the point that these are real people, real lives. He has a wife, he has children. He came to our Christmas dinner and wept as he recalled that story and thanked everyone for saving his life. That was our ambulance that took him to the hospital. If that ambulance had not been available, he may have died. And he is not the only person. He is just the person who has been willing to share that information publicly. If you would like to read the entire story or watch the video of his interview, the link's there at the bottom, and you can certainly do that. But Mr. Cox has a very nice story. We're very happy that he is alive and very happy that he's been willing to share his story with us to help prove how important the ambulance service is. So the other reason than just bringing back the ambulance is we want to get some paid firefighters that are here at the stations every day. It's extremely difficult to get volunteers. Very few people have the time to volunteer. Everyone has, families, children, things like that. It's just not the way it was 20 or 30 years ago when you had tons of volunteers. We have, so far this year, had about 1,965 calls as of today. The vast majority, and I do mean over 50% of those calls, were answered by just 3 people. And it's extremely, that's not sustainable. It's going to burn those people out. You're not going to be able to continue to do that. And, we have tried everything out of the books to recruit new volunteers. It's extremely demanding for time. There's lots of training. It's physically demanding. You have to go into houses where people, could be dead or dying, blood, things like that, car wrecks, go into houses that are on fire. That's not for everyone. We're not volunteering for the bake sale. This is a very hard job to volunteer for. So it's even harder to find volunteers. So we do want to get firefighters full-time here in addition to the ambulance personnel. So what we'd like to have is 3 or 4 full-time firefighters on duty 24/7, 365, using a typical ABC shift, 24 on, 48 off. We'd have to hire at least 9 full-time firefighters to have 3 here every day, so that it can rotate. And of course, we'd have to hire a number of part-time firefighters to fill in on off days, sick days, etc. Eventually, we'd like to increase that in the next few years to 6 on call every day. But we can't do that if we don't pay competitive wages and we don't offer competitive benefits like state retirement. Every other city around here has paid firefighters. They offer the benefits, and if someone is no different than the ambulance, if I'm a firefighter and I have the choice to go to XYZ city and make $24 an hour and have all these benefits, or go to Smith Station for $11 an hour and have no benefits, I'm going to do what's best for my family, and I'm going to go to this other city. So the only way that we can be successful in hiring and retaining paid firefighters is to pay competitive wages and benefits. So just to give you an idea, sorry, I've got those slides out of order here. Just to give you an idea of what it would cost to have those paid firefighters. So to hire the 9 full-time and have here is about $743,000 a year. As you can see earlier in the presentation, we do not have anywhere near $743,000 a year available to hire those firefighters. The EMS crews, to hire them and give them the benefits, cost about $419,000 a year, or right about $1.2 million total to get the firefighters and EMTs back in here. Again, not to be too repetitive, you can already know that we don't have $1.2 million or anywhere close to that. So I'm going to back up 2 slides, back to where I was out of order, and talk about some capital improvement purchases that we need to make. These expenditures need to be made now. Each year, the equipment, additional equipment needs to be replaced. So something that's not out of date this year, maybe out of date next year or the following year. So these are just going to continue to compound. And the cost, of course, are going up, like we already discussed, for each of these equipments. So we got to replace engine 111 because it's beyond repair. We just ordered that recently. Engine 122 is a 2002 model, so it's now 20 years old. NFPA says that fire trucks should be replaced every 10 years, so it's already twice its recommended service life. I mean, we can get some more years out of it, but somewhere in the next few years, it's going to have to be replaced. Engine 126 is a 2006 model. Again, we're going to get a few more years out of it, but maybe 5. It's going to have to be replaced. The brush truck is a 05 model, well beyond its life. We have some other brush trucks that we could just replace the pump equipment and the tank equipment on. Frontline ambulances, unfortunately, have to be replaced about every 5 years because of the amount of abuse that they take with the miles and the idling time. So, frontline ambulance, we put about 80,000 miles a year. So you say 5 years, you're coming up on 450,000 miles. You're going to have to replace it. It's going to become A, it's not going to stay in service because it's going to break all the time. And B, it's going to cost more than it's worth to continue to repair it. Station 1, the station that we're in, needs to be replaced. It was built in the early 90s. They did a lot of the work themselves. It was fine for the time, but it was never designed to have personnel. There's safety issues with having personnel, as in there's not 2 ways of egress, like none of the bedrooms have windows. So the fire is outside of bedrooms, they would not be able to get out. There are electrical issues because the electrical was done by the volunteers at the time. There are plumbing issues. Again, the plumbing was done by the volunteers at the time. When it rains for more than a day, the plumbing backs up and it's a very smelly situation in the station. There's other issues with the station itself. It's just, it's outlived its useful life and needs to be replaced. Station 2, again, it's quite old. It is a metal building, but it needs to be rebuilt. It doesn't necessarily need the level of Station 1 or 5 with birthing areas and things like that, but it does need some updating, kind of like what we did in Station 3 and Station 4. Station 5 is the station over by the VFW on Road 240. That is our busiest area over there. It also was not designed for full-time operations, but because it was built in 2005, the electrical and plumbing is in much better condition, and really it just needs some remodeling and maybe an addition to make some entrance and things. The air packs that we talked about earlier have, that we bought in 2012, they are officially out of their service life. That's a safety issue. If we send people into fire with air packs that the manufacturer has recommended to be replaced, if someone were to be hurt or God forbid killed, that is an extreme liability issue, besides the fact that we just don't want anybody to be hurt or killed. The SUVs, we have one that has over 200,000 miles on it. And each year we have to replace about 5 to 10 sets of turnout. They get worn, you're taking them into fires. It's a rough situation. They get abrasions, they get holes in them. We're not sending anyone into a fire without safety equipment. Unfortunately, life comes before property, and we don't want to be in a situation where we have to let your house burn down because we don't have safety equipment. But if we don't have safety equipment, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. So to give you an idea, just those things we run through, there's about $5.2 billion. We cannot, we don't have $5.2 billion, and we don't have the funds to maintain this $1.2 million. Again, all of that doesn't have to be done today, but I would say all of that needs to be done in the next 5 years. Well, we don't have an extra $1 billion a year, so, you know, again, just showing why we need more funding. It's not so that we can have parties or buy trinkets or anything like that. It's real equipment, real life safety issues. So, with all that said, we have spent a couple of years trying to figure out what was the best solution. Do we have another fire-free boat? Do we have a boat every couple of years? How would that work? Where can we get people? What are our options? And so we looked at the law. as we already discussed, Section 1189.7 states that fire protection districts shall have the following powers. And that is to furnish and provide fire protection service in the service area or any part thereof upon reasonable terms and for such reasonable rates and consideration as the board may prescribe. And it has the authority to fix and revise from time to time rates, fees, and other charges for fire protection services and to collect the charges made by it. So we said the answer is staring us in the face. They're already doing it in Beulah. They're already doing it in East Alabama. They're already doing it in Beulah. And maybe 2 dozen other places throughout the state. So we followed the law, made the application as we already discussed, went through the steps, and got approved to be a fire district. All these kind of legal slides you can certainly review later. We can read them word for word, but we basically covered everything in them. So then the question comes up about the current fire fee and how are we going to handle that? And so our first initial thought was, well, we'll just stop, we'll have the county stop collecting the $50 a month fee and we'll just charge all the fee on one state. Unfortunately, we were informed that we could not do that we had to wait until that $50 expired. That is less than ideal. We understand it's confusing. It is not how we really wanted to do it. But then we had to think about, well, how do we help people to understand that they're not paying the fire fee twice? They're paying part of it over here, and they're paying the other part of it over here to get to this final number. So what we decided that could be the best and clearest manner was we would show the $50 as a credit on the monthly statement. So the bill is $16 a month. Now, because you pay the fire fee, there will be a $4.17 credit, so you'll get a bill for $11 and some change. That credit will show on the bill until 2032 when these, 2036 when the fire fee expires. So that time the credit will come off and it will be a single bill. So this chart's kind of showing we're going to collect both for a little while. At this point, we'll only be collecting one. Again, we understand it's a little confusing. We understand it's not the best way to do it. We're kind of hamstrung. There wasn't much we can do about that. So the most we can do is try to explain it in a clear fashion. So this is a sample of what the bill will look like. You'll see that it says residential fire protection, $16 a month, credit, $4.17, and total bill of $11.83. We feel like that's about as simple as we can explain it. We feel like that most people will be able to understand that. And if there are questions, we're happy to try to address those. Payment options, that's the next question, because everyone is used to just paying it on their property tax. Our most questions that we've had is, why can't I just pay it on my property tax? Why do I have to get a separate bill? Again, it's our choice. We're limited in what we can do. We've had several people ask, why couldn't you add it to my water bill like Beulah? Well, Beulah only has one water company in their area. We have 3. So we would have, if we went that route, we would have had 3 different water companies billing, which would have ultimately meant 3 different statement times, 3 different everything. It would have been a nightmare to try to, plus the $50 still, so we would have 4. So it would have been an even bigger confusion. So the way that you'll be able to pay the bill that we send will be online using ACH with a debit your account, credit or debit card. You can mail a check or money order, set up an auto draft from your bank, pay by phone. The one thing that we will not be able to do is to accept cash or checks here at the fire station. We just simply will not have the personnel to do that and have folks coming by, dropping off checks and things like that. So we feel like there is enough methods to pay conveniently without having to come to the fire station. If someone has a super special situation, we'll try to work with them. Those that need to give them a snack or something. So we'll try to help everyone. But primarily, we feel like we have enough ways. So finally, for more information, again, all of this information here, including this presentation, is on our website. It's our email address, our phone number. Please feel free to call us, email us, read the facts on our website. A lot of information are probably there. And then we come to the question and answer session. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? Yes, sir.
So, I'm a student at Sensation High School.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, like, how could I or someone like me, like a student, help out with this problem that the funding issue?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that a student could do to help us would be to spread the word. Explain to your neighbors, your family, why this is important. What the fire department does, direct them to the website. Say, hey, there's good information there. Things like that. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know that I saw the total of what it's going to be per year after the increase of what the
So it's,
annual, as opposed to what you put out.
yes, so the annual increase, so it's gonna go from $50 a year for standard residential to $192 a year for standard residential. Is that what you're?
No, total.
Oh, everybody together.
As opposed to what you put
Yeah,
out.
so-
It's 490 something.
So right now, our budget is around 565. Going to this new rate, it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna there's gonna be a transition time, right? People are not used to it, things like that. But when everything is working perfectly, so let's just say after the first year, we should be somewhere north of $2 million, maybe 2.3, 2.4. And so, as you can see, that will pay for our firefighters and ambulance. That will pay our current expenses. I'm just gonna be frank and honest with you. There's gonna be increases after a few years because prices are just gonna continue to increase. We will have the ability to do that. The thing is, we won't have to make such big jumps. 25 or 50 is a huge jump, 50 to 192 is a huge jump. At that point, for instance, you would just get an increase of $1 a month, that's $12 a year. Well, that's much easier for people to budget $12 every year or two than it is these big jumps. We understand, we're not rich people ourselves. We understand, and that is one of the benefits is we can take small increments as prices and things increase without having to have these huge jumps.
Are you going to be able to, the apartment buildings, are they
Yes, the apartment.
per apartment?
The way the fire fees are now worded, it is per living unit. So the apartment complexes and duplexes will be paying their fair share. And commercial buildings will have a commercial rate, so they'll be paying a little more. Again, the resources needed to put out a fire at the Rainbow Foods versus the resources needed to put out a fire at a single wide mobile home are vastly different. And so it's only fair that we have different prices. So that's the thought process to that. And one other thing I didn't know something else I didn't say about that. So right now there are some people under the fire fee. Interestingly enough, a 24-unit apartment building pays $50. But if you have your house and a shed over a certain minimum square feet, you're gonna pay for your house and your shed, so you're gonna be paying $100, and the apartment complex is only gonna be paying $50. So under the new system, we are not charging for sheds and things like that, because it's just not fair. I mean, there are some people that have 2 or 3 sheds, and they're paying $150, and you got duplexes and apartment complexes paying $50. That's the system. I was not involved. I don't know who was. The way it was written is so inequitable that it's really, when you sit down and look at it, it's kind of astounding how inequitable it was done. I don't know why. We're trying to fix it.
One question I had, is this something that's automatically going to be implemented?
Yes, so October 1st, the call, so give it just a second, you might not be able to hear me. Starting October 1st, this is going. Anybody else? You have? Okay, you got some online?
One is, can the fee be paid yearly?
So yes, we've had that, question quite a bit about the fee being paid yearly. I 100% agree. Personally, I would want to pay it yearly. And so, right now, what we say is if you want to pay yearly, just mail us a check for the 192. We'll put the entire credit on your account and it'll be there and it'll just slowly go down over the year. We're going to, work with the billing company to find out how we can charge you just one time. As you can imagine, we don't have a lot of staff, we don't have really any staff, and the volunteers that we have are also trying to run calls. It has been a huge undertaking for this administrative with the setup billing, get all of these addresses, things like that. So we don't have all the answers for some things like this yearly billing, but we do know how you can do it by just paying us and we can put it as a credit on your account. Yes, ma'am.
How are we paying it now? I don't know that I even know.
Yeah, so the $50 right now is on your property tax bill. It is line item on your property tax bill. So a lot of people don't even know they're paying it because it's in with their mortgage, and even though they get the statement, they just don't pay that close attention to it, including myself, it's pretty common, and you don't even realize it. So I do also recognize that some people wish they could put this in with their escrow account. We don't have an answer for that yet. Maybe at some point in the future we will be able to. But if you want to pay yearly, we can certainly take your money and you make sure that you get proper credit for it. So, did you have another one online?
Yes. It says if Smith Station ambulances run 48% of the calls per year, like within the county, why are they not getting any subsidy money from the money that EMAC gives to from the county?
So the best advice that I can give on that, the best answer I can give for that is to call your county commissioner and ask them that question. I do not know the answer, and your county commissioner should be able to answer that for you.
That's all we have online.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, we will go ahead and end the presentation. We appreciate everyone who watched online, everyone who came. Again, let me just say this real quick. The information in this presentation is the best information that we have at the time. It could change. Some of it's estimates, like payroll, could be a little higher, could be a little lower. So we get actually paying the payroll, things like that. These are what we're budgeting. Budgets are estimates. So please don't call me or email me and say, you said it was gonna be X and it's $3 less or $3 more. I'm sorry, that is the best estimate we had at the time. So we just wanna put that out there and then, of course, say thank you to everyone who came, everyone who watched online. Email us, call us. So there's a form on our website where you can submit your question online. We will answer your question. We've only had like 4 people do that, and all 4 of those people, we've answered their question, and they were pleased with the response that they got. We are happy to communicate. We're happy to answer questions. Please just let us know. Thank you.